And welcome to the Sports Box, where the only opinion that matters is right here. I am Mike Galetta, aka Hampton Mike, along with my partner Brian, the Ranger Retard, to bring you another solid NFL special that we just keep love bringing you. Today we're going to sneak up to, how do we see sneak up to? Let's walk up to the NFC.
They know we're coming.
They know we're coming. Damn right we're coming. And we're going to the NFC North today and talk about the Green Bay Packers. This is a team that lost Jordy Nelson last year. Somewhat was in disarray, but you know what? I think they're going to be a good team this year. Let's talk to the man who knows about the Packers, Ryan Havermel. Ryan, you there?
I am.
All right, let's talk a little Packers. Brian, stat me.
Green Bay Packers. So they went 10-6 last year, finishing second in the NFC North. They did lose to the Arizona Cardinals in a really crazy game in the divisional round. They were offensively okay. They're 12th rushing, but only 25th passing. Defensively, they were 21st against the run, but a really good 6th against the pass. They wanted to go D-tackle in the first round, went with Kenny Clark out of UCLA, 27th overall. They did lose B.J. Raji to retirement. I think a little early. I don't think anybody was really expecting that. But you know, the Packers are perennially a contender in the NFC, and it's largely due to Aaron Rodgers. But statistically, he's coming off his worst season as a starter with career lows in quarterback rating and yards. But you can really attribute part of that to having lost Jordy Nelson for the whole year last year. Jordy's back. We hear he's healthy. So
Jordy Nelson.
You got that going for you. The rushing stats were a bit of a surprise, but they were low due to how ineffective Eddie Lacy was at times last year. Lacy appears to be in camp, slimmed down, ready to go, fresh off a P90X session. So
really,
we'll see how he does this year. Again, their defense was really, really good against the pass, but not so much against the run. With surprise retirement of B.J. Raji, I'm sure that played a role in going after Kenny Clark in the draft. So, Ryan, again, I mean, the Packers are one of the teams everybody talks about as the NFC powerhouse, and it does come back to Aaron Rodgers, but he did have a down year last year. You know, other than having lost Nelson, was there anything that just wasn't right last year for him?
I think if you really take a look at the way the season went, it became very clear that Nelson might be the most important player on any team when you look at how Rodgers' stats went down. The receivers that were in the game could not get any separation. When they did, there was a lot of drop balls. It was just overall bad. I think the offensive line played well, and like you alluded to, with Eddie Lacy being pretty grossly overweight last year, really not able to take much of the pressure off of Rodgers. It was just a calamity of issues that just came together, and then the offense just didn't move anywhere. You look at Rodgers and you expect 38-10 or 35-13 every single year, and it became pretty evident that he can't do it all on his own. And Randall Cobb, Devontae Adams, a lot of those guys last year just really did not step up in Nelson's absence. Like I said, they weren't able to get separation. There was no downfield threats until late in the season when you saw Jeff Janis emerge a little bit. So it was just tough all around for the offense, and it simply, I think, comes down mostly to one man, and that's Jordy Nelson.
Yeah, you mentioned Randall Cobb. I mean, he fought injuries a lot last year. He didn't help the Packers, didn't help my fantasy team either. I'm not going to draft him this year as a result, but Devontae Adams was somebody who I think the Packers did expect to fill a role, and he just really didn't rise up to the occasion when given the opportunity. Is he somebody who the Packers think can be a really good number 3 this year, or has fan base kind of soured on him just because of how he performed last year when he had an opportunity?
I definitely think it's the latter. I've been following all through camp, and from what I understand, he's still having the same issues. He's dropping a lot of passes. He's not running the crisp routes that if you know Aaron Rodgers at all, he's a big guy on running the right routes. You don't necessarily have to be the most talented guy, most athletic or big or physical, fast guy out there, but if you run the right routes, he's going to put the ball there. And, from what I understand, Devontae is just not doing that again. I don't want to call him lazy, but it just seems that the route running isn't as crisp as it should be. The hands aren't there, and nobody ever said that he was, his hands were glue to begin with. He was more of an athlete that could get out of his breaks and create separation. That just hasn't happened in the NFL for him yet. So I would definitely say that we're looking at another guy stepping up to play that third role, whether it be Janis. I know he had a little setback in camp. Abradaris. There's even some guys, Ty Montgomery, who was a rookie out of Stanford last year, was having a decent season and then went down with a pretty serious leg injury that he had to rehab. So there's definitely some guys pushing him that, to the point that I could see him maybe not even making this team coming out of camp if he continues on the route that he's going.
So changing gears around a little bit, talking about the running back situation. They do have obviously Eddie Lacy, who Brian says slimmed down. I'm going to see that when I see it. But you got James Starks, the aging James Starks, but it's still useful. Will the Packers look to try to work the other two running backs in there, John Crockett of North Dakota State, who's been there last year, and then you got the rookie Brandon Ross out of Maryland? Will they look to kind of mix them in, or are they even going to try to make the team?
I think that they're going to give Crockett every opportunity in these next 3 preseason season games. He's kind of the folk hero in camp. He has been for the last 2 years. The fans love him. Unfortunately, in this league, carrying 4 backs really doesn't do much for you anymore. It's a pass-heavy league. Everybody knows it. On top of that, I really think that you're going to see a lot of work from Eddie Lacy this year. He's in a contract year. He had a really big-time down year last year. I think they're really going to ride him, and I think it'll be the Starks and Lacy show again, and not much else from anybody else.
Sticking around, just kind of finishing off the offense here, Green Bay, ironically enough, as prolific as their passing attack has been since Rodgers has been there, and even going back to Favre days, they never, at least as of late, they haven't really seemed to get a tight end in there that can be an effective guy. I mean, Jermichael Finley, I know fantasy players thought he was going to be for many years, always was kind of a bust, and last year I think Andrew Carlos was Richard Rodgers. I mean, just nobody really that's kind of like, taken that ball and run with it. They brought in Jared Cook this year, who's been an enigma everywhere else he's been in the league. But he seems to have been playing well in camp and playing well in preseason. Do you think that he might be somebody who might be the tight end that Green Bay hasn't had for quite a while?
I certainly hope so. You can just go on exactly what you said. He has been an enigma. I mean, this is a guy who's got all the intangibles, and the tangibles. Yeah. He's got the size, he's got the speed, he's got the hands. I mean, he's a physical, he's a beast. But he's never been able to put it together. And a lot of people will point to the quarterbacks that he had, Sam Bradford, and never being healthy, and then the parade of backups. So on my end, I'm hoping that is somewhat true, and I'm hoping that he can give Rodgers that safety valve over the middle of the field and that big time red zone threat. But we'll see. Jared is a guy that I can't put much stock into until I see at least a little bit out of him. In this preseason, in the first couple weeks.
I'm going to jump over to the defense now, Ryan. Talk about their defense. I mean, here's the defense. Besides Julius Peppers, Clay Matthews, and LaTroy Gillen, you're looking at a team that has 5 years less experience on every guy here. You're talking a ton of rookies, ton of first team guys. There's always and I'm going to say it, Clinton Dix. Who doesn't like that name, Clinton Dix?
Favorite name in the league.
Exactly. But I mean, is that good and bad? I mean, they're an up-and-coming defense, obviously, because they're very young. But is that going to hurt them in the short term in the way of really trying to get each other on the same page right now?
Yeah, this is the side of the ball that I'm really excited about for this year and moving forward. Everybody wants to talk about the offense. It's the sexy thing to talk about.
It is a sexy thing.
And when you have Aaron Rodgers, of course, that's what you want to talk about. But for me, as you mentioned, all these young guys that are hungry. I mean, you're able. Kenny Clark has been looking good. You put him and Mike Daniels on that line. They're going to get after the quarterback. Mm-hmm. Hopefully, they can stop the run a little bit better than they did last year. The secondary is just loaded with talent. I mean, you have three guys at the safety position with Micah Hyde, Clinton Dix, and Morgan Burnett that can start for any team in the league.
Wait a minute, you mean Clinton Dix?
Clinton Dix.
There we go. Okay, I'm just checking.
Yeah, those 3 guys, and then you have the rookie corners, or the second-year corners now, Demarius Randall and Quentin Rollins. These kids they're hungry, they're athletic, they're ball hawks. I'm excited about the defense. And if you look at any team, basically in the history of the Super Bowl era that's won a Super Bowl, you need a defense. And you look back on the Packers, recent Super Bowl wins or recent successes. It's been a good offense, but you've had a defense that for certain games can carry you and even win. And I think this year you're going to see a Packers defense that's going to end up finishing in the top 10 in total defense. They're going to cause a lot of turnovers. They're going to be exciting to watch.
And they're going to miss Raji a little bit because they don't have a guy over 332 on the team. So you need a little bit of weight there to boost that line. But like you said, they're a young defense. I expect them to just grow and get a lot better.
Hope so.
Take a look at the schedule here. Mike, that's your forte.
Oh, it's my forte. I'm sorry, Ryan. I'm getting to the schedule. I thought Brian was going over the schedule for you. So
no problem.
Let's look at the Packers' lovely schedule, and they are lucky enough to have 4 home. How did they get 4 home games in a row? Brian, do you have something to do with this? They have.
Yeah, I tried. I sent some letters.
You did a hell of a job because out of the gate they do have 2 tough games in Jacksonville and then Minnesota. But then they come home for 4, I think, winnable games. Maybe the Cowboys game's a little rough. They play home for Detroit, home for the Giants, home for the Cowboys, and then home for the Bears, going on the road for Atlanta. So let's just take those 6 games that I talked about, the 2 on the road and 4 home. I could definitely see the Packers getting out to a 4-2 start. Can you see that happening?
Absolutely. I'll be honest with you, though. I'm nervous about the first game against the Jaguars.
Oh, you should be. Jacksonville is very good. Yep.
Yeah, they're a tough team. I thought they were going to be a lot better than they were last year. But when you have Bortles and those 2 receivers, and Robinson and Hurns on the outside, those guys are tough. That's going to be a challenge, especially for a team like from Wisconsin to go down to Jacksonville week 1, where it's going to be hot. I'm a little nervous about that, but after that, we should be able to ramble off a few in a row.
Also too, I think and I'm looking at the schedule right now, and I got to tell you, this team's probably the favorite to come out of the NFC. The way the games that they're playing. You take a look at their non-division opponents and who they're kind of getting stuck to playing, and their 2 hardest games in that respect are Houston and Seattle, and they're both in Green Bay. So
yes, sir.
That you're going to get those teams late in the year at home. I don't see a lot of games on the schedule I can say, wow, I think Green Bay loses that game. I got to tell you, other than those 2 games,
you got 3 divisional games down the stretch at the end, which could be tough to keep focus on. But like Brian said, this schedule is pretty. I don't want to say simple.
No, but the hardest division games at home against Minnesota. So listen, I think the Packers are going to rattle off some wins here. The way it looks, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I think they need to. I think you're going to see if they're able to get to late in the season and they only have 1, 2, maybe 3 losses. I think you're going to see them really push hard because, as you guys mentioned in the beginning here, that last game against Arizona, you'd have to believe if that game was being played in Green Bay, there would have been a different outcome. And I think Rodgers and some of the guys that have been there for a few years, they see that, they understand that. So I think this is the year that if you're able to really pull off a 13-3, 14-2, even 12-4 record and get some home field, you're going to push as hard as you can towards the end of the season to get there.
I think getting the bye would be huge for them because, again, if you think about how things might play out, assume the Vikings get in, and then assume that Arizona-Seattle gets in, the teams that finish 3-4 are going to play probably Minnesota and probably Arizona or Seattle. So if you can avoid that game, that's just awesome in and of itself. But then to be able to get those teams coming to Lambeau late in the year, I know they lost a couple games to the Giants there, but hey, that's a hell of an advantage, especially if you get a team like Arizona who, they don't want to be out in the cold.
Yeah, exactly.
That's huge for
I got to tell you, watching Green Bay a little bit like I did the preseason, that Hall of Fame game was just phenomenal. Seeing Rodgers throw to Jordy Nelson all the time, and Andrew Luck. Wait, they didn't play. Shit. What am I saying? You see that? It's sports box. You just get forgetful sometimes.
Slight disaster.
I'm sorry. Yeah, slight disaster. The NFL just dropped the bomb a little bit on that. So.
That was pretty bad. I'll admit I was extremely disappointed, even though I was going to see my guys for maybe a series. It was still just a disaster.
Yeah, the NFL really dropped the ball there, but hey, whatever. The NFL's printing money and they don't really care about that, so that's not a big deal. So, well, that's all the time we have for the Green Bay Packers. We want to thank Ryan Havermel for getting on the horn and talking about a little bit of Packers football today. Ryan, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me, guys.
And of course, Brian, we will put Ryan in the Magic Rolodex. So that way, anytime something comes up in Packers camp or in the Green Bay area, we need to call Ryan up, talk a little Packers. We can do that. Ryan, does that sound good?
That sounds perfect. I'm always available.
And he probably has good contacts for good cheese. So we should
see
probably like place an order. Or
I can
something.
go for a good.
Eddie Lacy
cheese
loves
right
that cheese.
Yeah, well, not anymore. She's a little bit skinny.
That's right.
Yeah, I need a nice Gouda right now. I think that'd be great. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you for watching. We appreciate it. We got some good things coming on the Sports Box.
And make sure you're following us on social media at Sportsbox Show on Twitter. Like us on Facebook. And for God's sake, follow the YouTube channel, for crying out loud. Such great content there, only for our subscribers. It's free with a money-back guarantee.
Who put them in? What? Some of the opinions of this show do not rectify the show's actual
I'm only reading
opinion.
what the teleprompter says.
No,
Blame them.
They gave it to you wrong.
Blame them.
It's a monkey stamp over here. Anyway, thank you for watching. Remember, at the Sports Box, the only opinion that matters is right here. Thanks for watching, folks. See ya.
Don't forget to subscribe.